Welcome to the Queens of the Neuroverse podcast. I'm Dr. Kalin Johnson. Join myself and my wife, Marnie Bothmer, as we make sense of this neurodivergent life so you can feel empowered to reign over your neuroverse. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Queens of the Neuroverse podcast.
Hey.
I'm Kalin.
I'm Marnie.
And we are a married duo.
We are.
Who are neurodivergent. If this is your first time listening to the podcast,
Come join us.
yes. And
Also, sorry, but happy June 25th. It's halfway to Christmas.
The day that we're recording this, not the day that it's coming out.
True.
So yes, the day that we're recording
Today
this, yes, June 25th. Happy halfway to Christmas. Happy Pride.
Yep.
Happy summer. Happy post-summer solstice.
Yep.
All the happies.
That would be summer, right? Summer and summer solstice are kind of like...
valid.
Yeah,
We're
saying.
a few days past that.
Just saying.
This is my wife who's not autistic, but who's also going to remember that whenever this is, here's one of the things that pops up in our neurodivergent life as queens.
Sometimes I feel like I have some autistic tendencies.
Right. But one of the ones that drives her most nuts about my autistic tendencies and needs is that I am very particular about, words, like the words that she uses, and I'll be like, but you said this word. And she'll be like, I don't know if I meant that word. Like, why are you focusing on the words? But remember this moment as she just focused on my words.
True.
So
Just
am I going to throw that back in your face when you throw it back in mine next time? Yes. This is a neurodivergent relationship right here in this moment.
Yeah. Well,
Honestly, though.
I learned it from you. No,
Right. No, yeah. Honestly, the thing that I do like about that is like so many times, like I have a lot of patients that I work with who all these little like neurodivergent, I'm going to call them like little quirks or things that we have, needs where they can feel so much like I'm a burden for having them. And like I see there's a dialectical experience to everything. Sure, like there are differences, but does that have to be a burden, or can it also, like the other side of that coin? I think for us, it's something too that like we try to have fun with and like laugh.
I was gonna say, yeah, as long as you, I mean, sometimes obviously I know it cannot be a laughing experience all the time.
No.
But yes, I feel like being able to have laughter with it is obviously really helpful.
We just went to a comedy show yesterday, and there was a lot of Alok is maybe somebody who you all may be familiar with. But one of the things that they talked about was how, sadness around things and laughter can exist right next to each other, but man, does like laughter and comedy help you take a step forward where sadness doesn't. And not to say again, like we've all said Inside Out, sadness matters. Yeah, we have to have that. That all has to exist 100%. And then it's looking at how can you take a step forward. And so that's really, again, to like take down like what this podcast is for us and like what we want to share with you is basically how we take a step forward in all the challenges that come from living this neurodivergent life, which is really then how we see you being kind of the queens of your own neuroverse. And so much of that is like being able to laugh at that.
It's true.
Too.
Yeah,
And
it's true. Don't take things so seriously.
Yeah. Which,
Which is hard. Which is hard when also you're like marginalized. No matter what your marginalization is, that could be neurodivergent.
so maybe it is.
And also you're like, oh, well, the political, world right now is trying to say that, like, I don't know, autism doesn't exist or what, like that is not funny. And
so maybe it's not, don't take things too seriously.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
that's
take
why I
them
was like,
seriously. And also
find ways to continue to find joy, I think too. Like instead of like, don't let them get you down, which again is like easier said than done. They can get you down a little bit, but then it's like, all right, but also, I'm going to live my life. And
like, I know for me, like the laughing at it, like when I'm talking about it here, I always can in the moment. Can I? Oh, hell no. Like not even like, Yep. Like not at all, because I have to process the frustration, the anger, the sadness, the whatever first. And then I can hold that dialectical experience. So if there's something I can't hold and like we're struggling to hold at that same time, like the humor of it generally means we haven't processed like how we actually feel about it, like that real raw feeling. That's got to come first.
I feel like they always say like comedians like are only good comedians if they've experienced a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
And so, but also they're probably not like I feel like to be a successful comedian, you've probably done a good amount of therapy. You know, like you still have the trauma, but you've also like worked through it. You're not like, I haven't processed any of this and now I'm going to come out and,
for the joke to be funny, I think it would. Otherwise the joke would just read as like sad and
yeah, it was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, this is a lot. Yeah. So yeah, I feel, yeah, exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, in thinking about, you know, we were chatting about kind of our week and like what was the like kind of, you know, big neurodivergent, I don't know, like theme, I guess, that really came up for us. And one of the ones that we talked about that I feel like shows up in our life like constantly
all the time
is really autonomy, and how much like we rank autonomy as our number one. And if you look up like what we're going to talk about within like what we struggle with here, you're going to find the word pathological demand avoidance, or the words, I guess, that diagnostic piece, where I know I definitely have PDA autism, but I'm going to tell you, I hate the name pathological demand avoidance, because again, pathological,
right?
Like that's bullshit. No, my demand avoidance is completely logical, and you calling it pathological is triggering my PDA.
Yeah.
But it is.
Yeah.
Like, it is.
Well, I feel like
logical.
just trying to put everything in the DSM. It's like, this isn't helpful. Like, we're just saying that you're crazy, honestly.
Well,
and it's like, this is, like you said, it's real. Like, this is a real thing. So
the problem again is, and I think we've talked about this, everything in the DSM is about how other people experience you, not how you experience you. So to them, your demand avoidance seems pathological. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
But to me and to us, it is completely logical. It makes perfect sense. So that's the whole problem with the DSM, is it's all about how others experience you, not how you experience you. But yes, so basically the thing we really get down, like when I have somebody come in whose PDA has been told, or I see kind of those themes coming around, really what that means is that they are going to value autonomy over everything else, which makes so much sense as neurodivergent people, that often we would display PDA type tendencies of like autonomy first, because we didn't have that. We've been told again since we were little, like, no, you have to do it this way. Like, we don't get to have the control over the things that make our lives then feel good. So if something threatens control being taken away from us, extra demands, whatever, immediately like, oh, hell no.
Yep.
So yeah. So where does this pop up for you, Marn?
Well, I guess we're speaking, I guess, just like, I mean, in life, it can be anything, but specifically within this week, and I guess before I even answer that question, I feel like it varies, right? A lot of weeks. Like, I know we talk a lot about also like how things can be additive and layered. So some weeks, you know, these things might not be a big deal. Other weeks, if there's like a lot of other layers, or if I'm really tired or something, it all feels worse. But I feel like I've just had a lot of appointments coming up. So I had like a nephrology appointment this week, and then next week I have neurology, and we have an appointment for Indy, and Kalin has an OB appointment, and I just had a dentist appointment. I also need to get my oil changed, and I keep forgetting about that, even though I'm like at my time. And then like I have people I want to hang out with. And so I feel like I have like 3 pending, like, hey, let's hang out this week or next week. And I'm like, okay. And you know, and ultimately I want to do those things, and I don't want to get my oil changed, you know, like I don't actually want to do that. But also I know that I should, because it would be a really way worse thing if my car just died on me. So like, I feel like that is a stuff. But then like, now that I have all of the things, I want to do 0 of them. And so anything that comes up on top of that, I'm like, can't do it, even if it's small. And then me just like trying to decide how to make it work. That's like how, and like, you know, we've talked, right, we have a 7-month-old now. And so kind of navigating it with her, like we, you know, it's harder also, like she's not in daycare. So, you know, it's like, okay, she's with me from this time to this time. So I'm like, okay, well, if I schedule this, do I schedule it around her nap, or do I take her with me? And so like, that's added a whole other layer of things to think about. And so I feel like my demand avoidance is just like way higher, because there's more things to think about with the things. Yeah.
So like, again, like it sounds like, your demand avoidance especially is like task, like oriented, and the amount of demands like with that task, the amount of like brain power. I have that to a degree more, where I find like my PDA crops up is in my mask. And I feel like that's even,
that's very true for you,
more so with now unmasking, and really that being kind of like a priority for me, of like really deciding how I want to respond. So if there feels like so like, let's say, okay, Marnie's like, yep, I want to have some people over. I want to do this thing. And one of the things she was asking me was like, basically like, could it happen around the time that I get off work? So I get off work usually around like 3:30 around there. I am usually tired. I've been talking to people all day. I don't want to talk. I don't want to have my mask on. And again, I really try hard when I work to not have like a full mask, but like, it's hard to not like mask at all. Like we all do. Like I am to some degree right here, right now. Right. I'm not fully in that place. But I'm choosing to. That's really what makes the mask feel better is choice when we choose how we're going to do that. But when she's like, hey, I want to have people over and they're going to be here when you're off work, automatically my brain goes, oh, hell no. Because my brain's like, now I don't have a choice if I mask or unmask then. Now, like, the demand of showing up in that way, like it's going to be hard for me to meet my base needs because of this thing now happening that is that given demand. Where this would always pop up for me as a kid is I would have like a visceral response when people would say good morning to me. Like I would see. You
still used to. I do. For me, it's better than it used to be, but I feel like you used to continue to have that, not just as a kid.
Oh yeah, no, it's still there, but like I know what it is now, so I can kind of like manage it. But like, no joke, seeing fucking red, like flaming, because I knew though, like in the morning, I'm not a morning person. I don't want to talk in the morning. I don't want to engage. Like it takes me a while to wake up, like not having it. So when somebody says good morning, especially if they're like, good morning, I have that feeling of like, I'm supposed to echo that back. I'm supposed to respond. I'm supposed to do that. And sometimes as a kid, I wouldn't, but then I'd get like in trouble for basically like,
yeah, you're crabby.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. We get called things, all of that. Like even like, you're not a morning person, blah, blah, blah. Like all like get labeled all of these things. And I hated that. So I knew again, I had to perform to avoid all of that or I had to deal with that. I didn't want to do either. Sorry, dealing with a little drainage, but yeah, like that is where I see like my PDA stuff crop up for sure. Or language. If somebody says something as a directive and not showing that like I have choice in it, I will immediately do the opposite.
So we talk a lot about like, we cycle back to episode 1 and kind of the beginning of this too, right? We talk ADHD, autism. So I know this as an ADHD more person and as a spouse. And so when I want to present something like this to Kalin, like, okay, hey, I want these people to come over. I don't think this is a big deal. I think this would be great. I know she probably will. That's like, let me tell you also the demand avoidance in my own brain, because I'm like, language is not as big of a thing for me. So trying to think about the way that I need to word it to present it to her is so stressful. And I'm going to be honest, I almost always do it, not wrong, but like poorly, because I think I have that anxiety about it, because I'm like, I know this isn't my strong suit, trying to like say the words and the way that the words will work well. And so that's, I feel like if y'all are ADHD autistic as a duo, I imagine that other people have similar concepts, but it's hard.
It's hard for me to like basically get on board with anything about that. So like for somebody with like PDA, then like with the demand avoidance and like autonomy, whatever, to feel like safe in it is they have to perceive that they have choice. And often because it triggers Marnie to think like, but I really want this to happen. The way it's presented is that I don't have a choice in it. Or if I do have a choice, that I'm going to also again be labeled something as like, you're not game for this, or you're not helpful, or you don't care. And it's like, so then I don't really have choice. And so then automatically whatever, like, no. So it's the same, like for myself, even going to work in the morning, I have to tell my own brain, you don't have to go to work. Like, even if I feel like I have to, even if I'm like, I have no money, I have to, whatever. Nope. I still have to know I have choice. I could go to the airport. I could buy a ticket, first plane out of here and go. I always have to have that full choice. If it feels like I don't, my system immediate, like, shutdown. And the funny thing is, and I've met with some patients who've said they've experienced too, but sometimes with the PDA, like it would even happen for a long time internally with myself as well. So like if this used to happen to the apartment we lived at for a long time, where my brain would say something to me like, I'm going to take the elevator. And I would automatically go, no, I'm going to take the stairs. Like I would have it with my own head. Like, and that was when I realized too, like when I was in burnout and total nervous system shutdown, like, oh my God, like that demand avoidance and need for autonomy was so bad that like I was my own like abuser. Like I was punishing myself with that to be like, whatever my brain said I needed, like I was going to do the opposite. Like no way. Like even my own freaking head. Like what the hell? Like
brain.
Right? So like I will tell you though, like that is still such a core part of me. I now just like use that to my advantage, like when I need to be like, so like one of the ways that I would, because like I use that in sports a lot of times to like push myself and like, whatever. But sometimes I'll now be like, oh, you think you're so tough? Like you think you know how to do whatever? Watch yourself like go to the gym and actually not run yourself into the ground. Take that challenge. Like do that. Like do that opposite. Like whatever that is. Like, yeah. But yeah, like that demand avoidance like piece can be everywhere. Ooh, here's a place I see it pop up a lot for people. Telephone. Telephone, messages.
Isn't a funny side note? I mean, maybe people always had this, but I feel like before the phone was like with us all the time. I mean, at least, I guess you said like your mom didn't like making calls, but I feel like it used to not be as big of a thing for me, at least like, I don't know, middle school, high school, we're 37. So I feel like back in the day, like if I had to call or something, it wasn't as bad, but I feel like now the accessibility of the iPhone and like the accessibility of me with my phone, so bad. Like if I have to call somebody or if I text somebody back or whatever, like so much worse. But I feel like it's like, again, it's like additive.
Yeah. I feel like
I jumped ahead. I didn't let you say what it was with the phone. I just like went just saying.
It's okay. It like one of the things I feel like I see with the phone a lot then though is like even just like answering the phone. So and again, like you have some control of that when it's your phone, but I see this a lot with like my patients like at work where maybe they like have to answer the phone. So I'm like, I'm a pharmacist. And so like when I worked in the pharmacy, like I definitely had to navigate my own demand avoidance when that phone would ring. Like that would trigger my demand avoidance because it's ringing. It's saying, you need to pick this up.
Yep.
You need to answer this. And I'm like, bullshit. Like I don't want to do that.
Way that you have to answer it and to be, especially at work. Yeah.
Well, and here's the other part then that I think happens with the PDA part and the autonomy piece is then the consent part of it. So what I think is also hard about the phone calling is like, you don't know what you're consenting to. When you call and say hello.
That's the thing.
Yeah. What are you consenting to? Are they going to try to... Exactly.
Yep.
Like you, all of a sudden,
sometimes it's like, let it go to voicemail first. I'll see what you need and then I'll call you back. Yeah.
Right.
It's like, you're just calling to chat? Are you calling because you need something?
Yep.
Are you calling? Are you like, oh my gosh, I'm at your front door?
Yep.
Is it like, you know?
I have that even like with messages and like shout out to my patients, if any of you are listening to it, but even with those, like I don't know the content of the message. And so I have to even like get my own, like before I open it, like, is it going to be just like a quick, short, simple question? Is it going to be something like really big and long? Is it going to be something that they're really struggling to deal with? I don't really get consent then to like basically what's coming at me. That's why people do like the whole trigger warning piece to try to like give that consent.
I feel like
but that's hard to do.
In a message,
I think what we have to do a lot more of, and this is what I have to do, is like when I sit down to respond to those messages, I have to tell myself, prep beforehand.
Yep.
You have control. If you start reading this, you don't have to finish it. Like you can come back to this, all of those things, because then my ADHD, who wants to check things off, says, no, you need to sit down. You need to do the whole thing. And you need, then my autism says, and you need to do it full out. You need to do it like 100%. So just like navigating all
I don't know if you feel this way, but for me too though, then like so if I'm like, okay, I can't deal with this right now, it could even just be something small and funny, but I'll set space to deal with it. And then when the space happens, like the longer I've waited to deal with it, it's so much worse. You know, it's like, okay, I have a text message from a week ago and I haven't opened it, and I'm like, it's probably not even a big deal. This actually happened to me the other day, and then I opened it. It literally was like a weekend. I opened it, and it was like literally somebody just being like, yep, you know, I mean, like it was more than I could have seen it, you know, but it was nothing. And so I was like, but I had just already put it off. And so I was like, I can't deal with that message because I didn't open it yesterday. I didn't open it the day before. Didn't open it the day before. So it was just like, ah.
as time grows, the demand of it grows because possibly also then part of that demand avoidance.
It's like, oh my God, so sorry, I waited so long. Also, there's that. Like, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say part of the demand avoidance that I know that you definitely have. I have it somewhat, but this is definitely a big one for you then is the perception, like part being perceived. Because like if you wait, then there's the possible perception of like she's ignoring it. Like, do I need to apologize? Like all of those things. So like, and you hate even just like being perceived sometimes like even through like a window or like whatever, but like
when my demand avoidance is high, I definitely do have that. Like I just want to be in a cave, I want everybody to look at me, I just which that's when we know that Marnie is like tapped out.
Yes, and you'll see this a lot in neurodivergent people because generally for us being perceived means being judged. So
even if it's like a good judge, like it doesn't have to be like a bad judgment, but somebody just being like, "Oh hey, nice shirt."
I was just gonna say the one that she hates. Maybe we talked about this. The one that she hates the most is kind of like calling out like something about her clothing or something.
Unless it's just like I like that. Like if you give me like a hey, I really like your shirt, I like that. But when somebody like this is
that's a really pink hat.
What do you say to that?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Right.
Why are you saying that to me? I don't know how to respond to it.
Right. That again, like it's this idea too, then that like you're constantly being monitored. It like calls that out.
It's like something that I'm not necessarily thinking. Maybe I liked the hat, so I'm not but like, you know, so I put it on. But knowing that somebody's having an opinion about it and thinking about me within it, it's like too much. I'm like,
it's a demand that
it's too much
again, and you're like, nope, I went out like 100%. So
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think
I always say, which I feel like this is a common neurodivergent trait too. Maybe it's just a common human trait. I don't know. To not really know how you're perceived is also an interesting thing. So sometimes then when somebody does give you like an insight into that, oh, like this is a thing about you, that always feels really weird, you know? Because sometimes I'm like, I don't know what people think of me sometimes. So then when they like give you an adjective or a label and you're like, oh,
well, this is one of the things,
especially if you don't agree with it.
Right. I was just going to say that's really, I think a really hard just human lesson though, is that we try so hard then though to control other people's perceptions of us. Right. They get to own that. Yep. Like that we don't, like we try to manipulate it. We try to impact that. And so when somebody has this like quote wrong view of us,
it feels weird though.
There is no wrong view though. Like they are going
from their own perception.
Right. So, from their experiences. Yep. Only we hold that own perception.
One of them for me is that people in the gym, I used to work at 24-Hour Fitness and it doesn't even matter. But I had a lot of clients that always tell me I was like a perfectionist and I was like OCD and like a neat freak. And honestly, I would just compare myself to this lady and I was like, no, I'm not. Like, because I'm not messy, but within our relationship, I am not the more tidy human. And so for somebody to then put that label on me felt very odd because I feel like within this dynamic, that's not who I am. And so again, it's just like people then putting this person must have been a messy human in life. And so seeing me hate that there were weights all over the floor and picking them up, they were like, you're so whatever. But she would say it very much like, oh, look, there's Marnie, you know, and I was like, it's not even who I am. So it just feels so weird. But you know,
but again, to like, again, we can't control that because maybe to her, then you are. Yeah. But that was the same.
It's just a weird thing to interact with, you know,
and like, it's like the shitty thing about labels then too, then sometimes like that can feel crappy. That's why I think I put like the way I navigate that to be the queen of my own neuroverse in that way is to know though that like that is the label that they're giving me, but I don't have to believe that. I don't have to be that. I don't have to do anything with that. It's just like, well, that's how you see that. Okay. Yep. Like, anyways, that's not how I do. And like that, it just can kind of end there. Yep. But yeah, no, that I had something else I was going to add to it, but the ADHD piece is gone.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Demand avoidance perception. Yeah. It's a lot. Yeah. The perceived thing, though, is definitely a thing for Marnie. It's intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Labels. Giving me a label. Don't do it, ma'am. Or, yeah, but what if somebody gives you a label and then you do agree with it and you do like it? Then I feel like it can, like, strengthen that perception of yourself.
Right. That's, though, honestly, though, a lot of this work is it
I was like, I know. I was just saying, like, it's, that's all external validation.
Exactly.
Which, and we like external validation.
Sure.
But
well, like,
do we need it? Do we not need it? We're social beings, so it makes sense that we would want it, but maybe we can also build our own.
I think it's more that it's like it can enhance the feeling, but we still need to have that feeling stand on its own first. It's what RuPaul, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Like the same idea of like, I can allow that to maybe, support what I already, but I need to hold that on my own first.
I was thinking that like also, so like when somebody's giving you these labels that you don't agree with necessarily though, that at least on my end too though, sometimes it feels like a weirdly like lonely experience, like kind of like this isolating experience, because you're like having to be like, no, that's not who I am, but I also don't need to defend myself to you. But now I'm kind of like in this weird, I don't know, like feeling, I guess, like misunderstood, which is, I feel like usually a trigger for a lot of neurodivergent people anyways. This is a really random one. So my hair looks kind of dark right here right now, but I feel like I'm blonde. I was really blonde when I was a child. My hair's gotten darker as I've gotten older. I highlight it sometimes, but like twice a year. So it's definitely darker for sure. But I was at Orange Theory, Coach at Orange Theory, and there was a lady who was visiting from a different studio. And she was like, oh, I've been here once before, but I had the blonde coach. And I was like, well, I feel like it literally says something like, and she said like, who is the blonde coach? Which we have other blonde people there. But I was just like, I feel like I have blonde hair. And she was like, no. And I was like, I don't know what to do with it. I can't even answer your question anymore because I'm like, I don't know. It was just funny. And to me, it was like such like a like block. My brain was like, I can't even proceed forward anymore. That's all.
Yeah.
There's a weird experience when you're like, this is how I see myself. And now you're telling me that that's inaccurate. And it's just a very like jarring experience.
She may have been saying no to like, but you weren't the one I was thinking of. Your brain was also probably going to the place.
I don't think so. I think the way that she was responding, she also was very like bleach blonde.
Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like in her brain, maybe it was like, this is blonde. Yeah.
So fully. Again, but that's the whole idea is like, yep, everybody's perception is their own reality. And I think it's a gross thing that we feel like then we don't have control over, which is I think what flames that RSD, the rejection sensitivity dysphoria for people who are neurodivergent, is we then do get labeled things like you're lazy or you're like I actually would get the perfectionist one a lot too, which I pretty young just realized that I was like, whatever, like call me whatever you want. Like I'm just gonna do my own thing. But I knew that wasn't it. Like it didn't make sense. Like it wasn't a perfectionist. Like so there were a lot of things I didn't do perfect. Like it wasn't about that. To me, it was about kind of the like correctness or the fullness of something, like the completeness, I guess. So it was more like if I'm going to like tie my shoes, I'm going to like make sure the laces are even because I'm gonna make a full bow. Like I'm gonna like I don't
do love it because it's actually like that was my thing being called a perfectionist. Like it's not mine at all. I'm like, I'll just have a little wonky, weird-eyed bow, you know? So
right.
But it's funny again, people's perception of like, you are this, you are that, whatever.
Yeah. And like one of the areas that I see this pop up again with the demand avoidance actually is a lot of times struggling with like boundaries in conversation. So if there's something like I don't want to talk about, it can be really difficult for me to hold that boundary. Because when somebody asks me a question, my brain goes, somebody asks question, I give answer. Yeah. Like that's just how you complete a conversation. Yeah. So I will a lot of times answer when I don't actually really want to. It's really hard to hold that because this thing was set in front of me, this demand where if I really connect to the like visceral response, I'm also like, I don't want to respond to this, but I almost can't do it that way because it's like, no, like I have to complete the transaction. Like
we had that actually a lot. I remember when we were going through our pregnancy phase, pregnancy process, and we were trying to collectively have a conversation about like how many things we want to share. People will probably want to ask us questions. What do we want to answer? What do we not want to answer? But I remember like just beforehand, because you were saying that, you were like, if somebody asks me something, I'm probably just going to tell them everything, even if I don't want to. So I feel like beforehand, it was helpful for us to both be like, okay, this is what we're going to try to set as our boundary, and then maybe we'll have an asterisk and later we'll realize it's not that big of a deal, but it's nice ahead of time when you can do that. Obviously in normal life that's not always a reality,
right?
But,
well, that's again, I work with a lot of patients on like advocacy and like boundaries and stuff like that too, and that's one thing I always talk about though. It's like it is extra challenging for us and like extra invasive if somebody keeps like pushing, because it is so difficult for us to hold that, because we also are battling this part of our brain that's like, no, but I'm just supposed to like check this off. I'm just supposed to do this. Like, that's so difficult for me to shut down. That's like really that's where my brain wants to sit. It doesn't want to have to be like hypervigilant, like around that. It just wants to be like, question, answer, complete, check, did it. Like, that's so much easier. It's so hard for me to say like to actually be engaged with like what I want in that moment. Like I just was talking about this with somebody the other day who even like, it was somebody, actually a provider in their life, who would keep like kind of pushing even when they set that initial boundary. And then they felt again, like so shitty that they kept then talking about the thing they didn't want to talk about, and was really like, it has to be like stressed though, that like, no, like, this is it. This is the boundary. And like, please don't push, because it's extra hard for us to continue to hold that piece.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is. Yeah.
I think some of it aspect too, I was just thinking it's like demand avoidance, or I guess you're answering completeness, but also at least like, that's not my perspective or my experience, but my experience with sometimes that is that I think also just the being misunderstood aspect. And so I feel like I tend to sometimes overshare when later I'm like, shit, I didn't actually need to share all of that. But it's also because it's like, well, hey, if I give you more information, then you know more about me. But then later you're like, share all that. It's kind of weird that I shared all that with my dentist, or whatever. Like, that's usually my story,
right?
You're like, oh, okay, that was a lot, but...
right? Well, the completeness is the context, but this is again where those times where we're like the walking contradictions, where we're like, I don't want to answer that, but then when we do that, we just like spill everything.
I know. Well, because you talk about too, like your brain is like completeness. Mine has sometimes like, I'm just gonna get this done as quickly as I can. So like, if her and I were both answering a prompt question, Kaylin's like, mine's 10 pages, mine's like 3 sentences, because I'm like, I just want to be done. It's fine, whatever. So that's also funny in my own brain that sometimes I have that, and then other times I'm like, no, please let me give you the whole story so you understand me. It probably depends on the subject, but yeah, it's just funny. Just thinking about the walking contradictions.
Yep. Like even in that moment.
Yeah, like how much I'm explaining it. Yeah.
Yeah, but then also when you stop yourself.
And then I'm done. Then I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I don't want to talk anymore. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
That's my favorite, when I can hear her in a conversation. She's like, talk, but then I can tell exactly when she flips to like, I'm done.
What I think some of it is, you talked about
she's
before.
She's like literally like,
is like, sometimes I think like, this is RSD. I don't know. I think other people don't care, or they don't want to know. And so then I stop, because I'm like, you don't care about my life. You don't care about, I mean, like, I'm not to be like, meh. It's not even that. It's just kind of like, I'm sharing, and I'm like, why am I sharing this with you? You probably don't care. So then I just stop.
Exactly. So that's why I can tell, because I can tell that Marnie left the conversation, because Marnie's having a conversation in her own head about what she's thinking could be happening.
Yep.
She's guessing how they may be judging her.
Yep.
Because
we've all been in conversations with people who just kind of keep going, and then you're like, okay. And so I think I have like this fear sometimes that I don't want to be that human. So sorry if anybody.
But then you're never actually in the conversation.
Yeah. And I'm just like, well, I'm just gonna say just a few words.
See, so sometimes this is where my demand avoidance comes up, because I can feel that, and then internally I go, I'm gonna no joke. Sometimes I will though intentionally start like speaking slower, but it's so like, it's because I don't like, the thing that I probably actually have where my demand avoidance works best for me is I don't actually struggle a ton with shame, because shame to me is something that somebody else is putting on me, and I'm like, oh hell no.
You also really don't have a lot of RSD.
No, I don't really. But that's why. It's because my demand avoidance says like, no.
Yeah. Like, Kalin is actually like you're the best at that. Like, I feel like it's like, yeah, whatever. People think I'm stupid. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, and I think you really, I mean, there's probably a little piece, you're human, a little piece of you that does.
There is.
But probably the least of anybody I know.
Yeah. My want though so much for that autonomy and control over that like, you can't make me feel that way. Like, like is so strong that it kind of makes me a little bit immune to the shame and the rejection, which I am grateful for. But I will say, like, just tip in the future, like for any of you who have that PDA, try that. Like, let it again work. I'm all about like those parts that we see as like really shitty about ourselves. Like, often there's a way though we can use it to our advantage. So like, that's a way that I 100% use that, is like, you do not get to make me feel however about myself. And truly seeing though, and this is another way that I will, so if somebody is judging you for like, oh man, she's taking so long with that story, I love to think about then to be like, instead of again like responding to that, instead of like reacting to that by saying I'm going to cut my story, thinking about, I wonder what happened to them in their life that they would be judging me for that.
Totally.
Or like, I just more, it's like bringing up that curiosity of what drives somebody to be that. Because to me, then I'm like, well, if they're feeling that way, then they also don't have the confidence to speak up and lead the conversation when they're now uncomfortable. So they're not good at setting that own boundary. And so me, if I'm doing that, then I'm actually an enabler, showing them that I'm going to read their body language and cut the conversation, which allows them exactly not to have to figure out how to stand up for what they want and shut down the conversation. And I don't want to be an enabler. I've watched enough intervention.
Yep. There you go.
Like, so then there, cut, done. Kaylin's never doing it again.
Yep. She's going to make you have to set your own boundary.
Yeah, truly. I'm like, I'm not doing that for you. Like,
you can speak up yourself.
100%.
Or everybody's just gonna be like, we're just gonna avoid that.
We're gonna avoid. This is all me having to be aware enough to do that. This is also the same person who in that instance could totally end up doing it for you, because I'm just then in that mass kind of like, this is how the conversation
we're all in different brain states doing things. Obviously this is a very low stakes environment right here. So that's gonna look a lot different than when you're actually in the environment. Which
I think is the norm of like neurodivergent people seeming from the outside, kind of having this like Jekyll Hyde or this like two pieces. Like, how can you be both? Because
I feel that way all the time. I'm like, man,
we are the walking contradictions.
Look at me do all the things. Look at me want to do none of the things.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
right.
Leave me be so excited about, I don't know, life and whatever. Like, let me not want to be looked at by anybody. And live in a hole.
So I feel like my biggest tip, if like autonomy and like pathological demand avoidance or pharmacological demand avoidance, just a demand avoidance pops up for you, is the core thing that's going to help you through that is finding choice. Like, where do I have choice? Where is the choice point? And making sure that you really do perceive you have choice. If you feel like you do not have choice in the matter, done. Like, brain is automatically done. That is threat level 10. So like stopping and like reminding yourself, I do have choice. Where do I have choice?
And I feel like actually you talked about like the going to work one, but I feel like you and I have actually had that conversation for forever in life. But it is true. And I mean, neither, like both of us like our jobs and whatever, but even in moments where we worked at other places, maybe didn't, just reminding yourself constantly like, well, I could quit. And then it's like, no, I can't because I have to pay for rent. But if I could be homeless, like, it's like, I mean, that's kind of extreme, but also just reminding yourself like, I mean, I could choose to, you know, just where like, I don't have to do this. I could move in with my parents or, you know what I mean? Just more like sometimes just reminding yourself that like, I am choosing to pay to have my own house. I am choosing to, you know, whatever. This like, I think we talked about this maybe the first time. Actually, I know that we did, but there was like those little memes, but like, it's kind of cheesy, but it is hopeful. But the things that I'll say like, how lucky am I that I have a house to clean, or, you know, sometimes it's like kind of toxic positivity, but I feel like having the choice in that though is like, well, I feel like it kind of reminds me of that. Like, oh, I'm choosing to have this house that I have to clean. I don't know.
Right. Which, like, you're right. We talked about it the first time, but I think because, again, like, choice is so important for neurodivergent people. That's something that feels like it's often was taken away from us. Like, that we didn't get to do the things or care for our bodies or respond to our bodies or our brains the way that, like, we wanted to and needed to. So that choice, even in extreme, I always say too, like, test it out. So, like, also, like, if your brain is saying, like, I just really can't go to work today, I need you at some point then to not go. To like show your brain that you don't have to, that you can go play hooky, that you can do whatever. Because sometimes I have patients to be like, well, it doesn't work for me to gaslight my brain. Right. I don't want you to gaslight it. I don't want you to lie to it. I don't want you to say like you could and then never do it. I need you to go do it.
Totally.
We used to take, maybe we talked about this too, but like last minute vacations all the time, or like go and turn around and like go back right away. Part of it was just to show our like brains that like we could do that. We were not stuck. We were not trapped. We had choice. We could go do this fun thing that seemed like we shouldn't or couldn't do it. That was so powerful for us to feel safe in our own lives because we knew we had choice in the matter. So choices for any of our Drag Race fans out there. But yeah, so hopefully this will help you out in kind of navigating some of that demand avoidance and autonomy in your own life, and to know that like that's normal. It's fine. And again, like honestly, like I find it I think it's one of my favorite things actually about neurodivergent people. I think it's demand avoidance. Yeah, like to watch it happen. Like this sounds so weird, but I find it really cute. Like it's endearing, I guess, to me. Like, see, perception though.
Yeah.
Like some people probably find that really annoying. I find it completely endearing. I think it's adorable, like hilarious. Like just to like watch our brains like do this like puzzle game constantly back and forth. So yeah, hopefully that helps you navigate that in your life, and you can go be the queens of your own Neuroverse. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us this episode.
Yes.
Watch next month for our next episode. Right now, we're just putting them out monthly as we kind of navigate still coming into our parent life with a 7-month-old and figuring all of that out. And hopefully in the future, we'll kind of get these pumping out a little bit more frequently. But otherwise, yeah, we'll look forward to chatting with everybody next time.
Yay.
Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, friends.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Queens of the Neuroverse podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe to the podcast. If you're ready for individualized support, head on over to KalinJohnson.com and MarnieBothmer.com to work with us one-on-one. Reign and repeat, my queens. Reign and repeat. None of the information presented in this podcast should be used or applied personally without consulting with your doctor about your symptoms, diagnoses, treatment, and the safety of applying any information discussed. All the information discussed reflects only the experience of the host and should be used for educational purposes only. This podcast does not replace the guidance and/or prescription of a physician. By listening to this podcast, your acceptance of this medical disclaimer is implied.